We're now going to look at how we can use the theory of full cost recovery in our fundraising or income generation. Here we can see the same Breakfast Club project we saw in the previous video, but we've just got Little Acorn School's full costs of operation in our second column, a total of £15,750. As we can see, we're getting an in-kind donation towards the work in Little Acorn School. This is because the school are using some of their funding to give us the venue for free. We still need to account for this in our budget, of course, but we can show that we don't have to raise that additional money in our balance left to find column. So there's a balance of £13,750 to find, and we've identified a local grant maker who has up to £10,000 that we can use to support our work. We know we're eligible and it's a good fit, but it doesn't cover the full costs of what we need. So how can we allocate our £10,000? We may choose to allocate it all to our direct costs, with a token amount or certain percentage allocated to our indirect costs. And sometimes we may need to do this, particularly if the funder says that they do not fund overheads or indirect costs of any sort. Of course, those funders do exist, and in which case you can take this approach. However, you must be thinking about where you're going to raise the balance from. You still need to find £3,750 to run this project. Who can you get that from? Perhaps you ask for donations from parents who use the Breakfast Club, and over the course of the year those build up and you know that you'll be able to use that to cover that balance left to find. But if not, how are you going to cover those costs? Let's look at another way of looking at this. Instead, we could assume that Funder B, with their £10,000, covers around 70% of the project. The numbers are rounded slightly here, but as you can see, they pay for 70% of each of the remaining budget lines left to find. Why take this approach if you can? Well, the first reason is the balance left to find creates a much more attractive project for Funder C should they come along. Funding 6 places on my project, or 30% of my work, is a lot easier than just covering my indirect costs, so it makes it an easier proposition for other funding proposals. The second reason is that if I cannot find that balance, I can be honest with Funder B about the fact that the project cost £15,750 and they've only given me 70%. I might need to make difficult decisions about only offering 70% of the places, i.e. 14 spaces in my Breakfast Club, or perhaps only operating 4 days a week. But I can be honest with Funder B that that's how their money has been spent. In the previous example, we saw all the money being spent on the children, so 20 places on the Breakfast Club, 20 people getting food every day. In this instance, they've only paid for 14, and that's all we're going to deliver. The third reason is about sustainability. You will sometimes notice on funding applications, you're asked a question about who else will support this work, or how will you secure funding for this project when our donation has come to an end. Funders aren't asking here to be awkward, they're looking to see that you are thinking about sustainability of your project, that when their grant or donation ends, that this work will still continue. By showing that you're allocating a percentage of the entire project to different funders, you're supporting this argument, that you're thinking about resilience and sustainability. You're showing that others are interested in your work. And for those 3 reasons, taking an approach like this where you can really support your financial sustainability as an organisation.